Hello and welcome back. Today we are talking all about that one employee. I know, the one employee that you are so frustrated with, that you think is intentionally working against you, that maybe they do good work, right? But they just have no interpersonal skills. Or maybe they have potential, they're not even doing great work yet, but you can see the spark there and have the worst attitude. Or maybe you can't think of a single thing they do well, but your boss just wants you to get them through to the next level. You've tried all the carrots, you've tried all the sticks, and you just keep getting asked to do more with them. And it's getting so frustrating because it's not making any difference. Today, we are covering coaching that most difficult employee, but honestly, it's going to apply to any employee that you need to coach, from that really hard to reach one to your star performer. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how it is typically done, why that does not work, and most importantly, what you can do yourself to have a better outcome. We are going to improve your mental framing and give you the exact words to say in those coaching conversations so that you can light it up. All right. So, what is the quote normal way to coach? Typically, when people are coaching, especially those difficult employees, they come in with this dread. They come in already just frustrated and hoping to get that conversation over with. So they say things like, "Hey, bud, I know you're super busy. I know we've asked a lot of you, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing so far. And I was just wondering if you could maybe try to be like a little nicer to people. If you could try to have maybe like a little bit better attitude. I know it makes it hard when other people aren't doing their job right or when they're saying things that kind of tip you off, but if you could just put in some effort there, that would be great." Now, I know you're already trying really hard, but anything that you could do, I would appreciate. And if there's anything that you need from me to make that easier or make that possible, you just let me know. I am on your side. Does that sound familiar? Have you had a conversation that felt a little bit like that, where you just kept talking and kind of excusing all of the bad behavior that you actually came to the meeting to correct? So, when you coach like this, your team member doesn't actually walk away with any answers. They walk away with questions. And they walk away thinking, was that a correction or a compliment? I wonder if they're going to lighten my workload. They kept saying that they know I'm so busy. And then they'll think, well, they did acknowledge that I could be better, but at least they saw that it wasn't my fault. There's nothing I can do about it. Now, I want you to ask yourself a question. What was the goal of that conversation? And if you approached it that way, did you actually hit it? Are you coaching them to improve, or are you begging them to do the bare minimum? When we sit on the outside looking in, we can see that this is not going to be effective. This is not the way to coach to get any real results. What you want is for that team member to walk away clear on what they need to improve and inspired that they're going to be able to. So, what was that conversation actually missing? Well, first of all, it was missing some confidence. And from there, it was missing clarity around what to do and why to do it. And to be honest, at the end, we kind of even left them hanging. Even if they did pick up that they needed to make a change and they wanted to do it, I'm not sure that in that situation, they would even have the tools that they need to do that. So let's talk about what to do instead. And first and foremost, I want you to have the foundation to walk into that meeting with clear confidence. So that is going to be where we're starting today. We are going to be rooted in clear confidence. Now, what does that mean? I want to look at your overall tone. When you approach coaching with this, hey, buddy, I know it's hard, sort of weak tone, you are not equipping them to take on your power. This is going to sound a little different for a minute, but you have to have that power. You have to have that confidence in order to instill it in someone else. And so when you come with that small, hey, buddy energy, you don't have any power to give over to them. So instead, come with the confidence, come with absolute clarity on what it is that you expect so that you are able to communicate it. So when you coach your employees, even the most difficult ones, or especially the most difficult ones, to be honest, approach it with this confident power. Your confidence is going to come from this clarity, right? That means that even before you enter the room, even before you start this conversation or set the meeting, know what you expect. You might expect respectful questions and comments. You might expect them to clock in on time. You might expect them to speak up, take initiative, to have questions and push on you in meetings, right? You might expect people to respond to your emails, your calls, your messages within 24 hours. Whatever that expectation is, be clear with yourself, clear enough that you can say it out loud, that it isn't some vague assumption, because that clarity is going to give you the confidence so that you can have compassion for the one off situations and conviction to uphold the standards that you set. All right, so that is your foundation. That is what you need before you ever set up that meeting. Then you can go into what you were honestly trying to do with all of the, hey, buddy, I know you're working so hard, and build some acknowledgement for the work that they're doing. Notice what I said there, though. We're acknowledging the work. In that first example, we were acknowledging the feeling. Now we are taking that clear and objective state of mind and we are carrying it over into the coaching conversation. So you can acknowledge the efforts that your people are making, right? And like I said, that was the intent the first time with all of that kind of squishiness that we started with. But when you are clear on the objectives, you can open that conversation with acknowledgement of the work product or the actual effort that led to an objective result, right? You can show compassion for what is hard by being clear and specific, and you don't have to commiserate with them. Because that's what we ended up doing in that first example, was to say, I know this is really difficult. I know these expectations are so high. And I know I'm putting a little bit of a tone on it now that you maybe aren't bringing into those meetings, but think about how that's playing in your head and how it's playing in theirs when you say it. Now, you want to show that compassion, and that's great. That's how you build rapport. That's how you build trust with your employees. But rather than saying, I know you're busy, I know it's hard, I know that these expectations are so high, and honestly, I don't know that I agree with them all of the time, we're going to flip it to be objective and positive. So you could say, I appreciate the overtime that you have put in over these last 2 weeks to complete the analysis. And my intention is to have this wrapped up by the end of the month so that we can go back to normal working hours. We took the feelings completely out of it. We focused on acknowledging the actual work and the objective steps that were taken. One, because that's more clear, that's more specific. You don't know how hard they're working and you don't know how painful the busyness is, but you do know that they put in extra time. So we're going to focus on that and let them have the feelings they have from it. Also, you are setting that expectation that this is going to continue through the end of the month. So, even in that opening sentence, when we are coming in with our clarity, with our confidence, we are giving them a compliment, we are acknowledging the work they're putting in, and we're doing it in a way that sets an expectation of you have been doing overtime. I appreciate that. That's going to continue for a short time, but there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And my full intention is that you will get back to your normal working hours. Somewhere along the way, we decided to have this misconception that if you are going to appreciate someone's work, it means that you have to lower the standard, right? If you say thank you for something, for whatever reason, that now means that that was going above and beyond. It does not have to mean that. You can appreciate the work and the effort and the time that someone is putting in while also fully expecting that they do that. And this is one of those situations that you are saying, thank you so much. I know that this is extra for you. This is overtime and it will be done soon, even though it isn't going to be done today. Now, you didn't use any of those excuses. You're not using any of those other, oh, I'm sorry's as a crutch. It's not going to be something that excuses their behavior, but it does allow you to give them the credit that they deserve in this situation. At this moment, you are establishing yourself as the leader, as the coach, and you are just opening up the meeting, right? We are just in the opening lines of the meeting at this point, and you are already establishing yourself as that authority figure. So now let's get to the meat of it, right? Let's get to the point where we tell this person what we need from them and why. Now, in that first example, we spent so much time living here trying to acknowledge their feelings and acknowledge all of the busyness that was going on that we barely got to this. And when we did, we just sort of touched it and came back. We touched it and came back. We didn't get a full understanding of what we needed them to do and why they would do it. Because managers usually just ask if employees can do better. They never get specific around what better looks like. And then they do exactly what we did in our example and start rattling off excuses. And it's because they know that things aren't going to be perfect. But you can just rest in that assumption. We can just know that things aren't going to be perfect and not need to list off everything that could create a setback for us. So it sounds a little bit like in our first example, could you just try to be nicer to coworkers? I know that they start it sometimes. I know that they say things about you, right? Or they say things like, could you just try to be a little bit more positive in meetings? I know that there's so many hard pills to swallow and I don't like them either, but see how we're just sort of dragging it back down? Not only are we not staying here to get clear on what we need them to do, but we're dragging down that acknowledgement into almost a pity party. We are commiserating with them. So, in your coaching, when you're having this conversation, explain what success looks like. Again, keep it objective. Now, that could apply to anything in your work, right? This isn't specific to behavior when you describe what success looks like. But for our example that we're talking about today, we're looking at behavior. So we'll keep on that same theme. So you might say something like a successful analyst can perform meticulous reviews of the data and then build strong and respectful relationships so that their analysis can be used effectively. That looks like asking for input, listening to questions to understand what the need is, and then answering questions with the intent to build everyone's knowledge. Think about how clear that is for someone instead of saying, oh, could you try to just be a little bit nicer? Could you try to just improve your attitude a little bit more? Being direct about what success in a role or situation looks like keeps the focus positive. Again, we want to keep that energy up. We don't want to fall down into all of the pity party commiseration. I know that this stuff is so hard. It allows you to say, this is what it would look like if we were successful in this role. And you don't have to waste time talking about every single thing that went wrong. You get to them to focus on where it is that they're going. 9 times out of 10, they will identify for themselves what it was that didn't fall into those parameters, right? Think of it this way. Think about when you are hiking on a trail with someone and they are just trudging along. They are dragging their feet, right? Complaining about the roots and the rocks, and it's hot and there's bugs. And finally, you just stop begging them to stop complaining. Even though it's hard, even though those roots are still there, even though those rocks are still big, you just gently lift up their chin so that they can see that there is a 100-year-old tree ahead of them, so that they can see that there is a deer running across the trail just a couple yards ahead. Now you are focusing them on why they are hiking in the first place. You don't have to look down at all of those things that were causing them to stumble when you can put their focus on what they need to do and why they're there. Okay, this next level is going to seem obvious, but I promise you it is the thing that is missed most often. Right now, we are going to talk about how we get the work done, right? How we make this change. So let's add that one to the top of our pyramid. Oops. There, top of our pyramid. If you want to really be next level in your leadership, empower that underachieving, difficult to work with employee to fix the problem for themselves. Now, I have had people argue with me in the past that they are empowering the employee when they use that first example model because they asked that employee to maybe please consider making a change, right? And then they said, let me know if you need any help. So obviously, they empowered them to make that change because they suggested a change and then didn't micromanage them. They didn't tell them exactly what they needed to do. That isn't empowerment. What that actually is stranding that person you're hiking with out on the trail. Empowering someone means that you have given them the confidence in their authority and power to do something. It means that you have set the vision for them about where they could go, and then you gave them the confidence to determine their own route. All right? You allowed them to determine their own steps. But if you haven't set the vision, if you have not created that end goal, and you haven't given them the confidence to get there, you didn't empower. You just left them out there stranded. You communicated that you're uncomfortable with something, you're uncomfortable with how hard things are in the organization or how their behavior is, maybe. And then you basically said, figure it out without doing anything to help them along the way. And on top of that, you gave them plenty of excuses on why it is okay if they never actually do it. Once you've come in with clarity and confidence, right? And you have set the vision for what the goal would be, you told them what success looks like, and then you simply say, what do you think would be the best way to get there? That is building confidence in the power to get it right. That is helping them and holding the map and saying, which trail do you want to take to get to the top of this mountain? You told them where you're going. You gave them the tools that they needed. And then you stood with them side by side and said, how do you want to get there? That is empowerment. And that builds this base floor for them too. So then they can give themselves their own credit and they can see what that success and why they would want it looks like. With time, they can coach themselves. Do you see what I'm saying here? Now, one thing that can get just a little bit overwhelming when I get really excited about how this becomes just a complete loop as you're elevating everyone within the team is that coaching actually requires a coach. Now, I hope you have gone through this video and you're thinking, I got this. I am going to change how I work with that one person who I know has been floating through your mind the entire time I've been talking. And instead of coming in with this timid energy and just bringing all of the life out of that meeting, I'm going to structure it like this so that we can elevate everybody. But before you set out with your notes, before you go to transform all of your coaching abilities, I need you to stop and consider something. Who is helping you through this? Who is coaching you? Because to transform your capabilities as a coach, as a leader in general, you need a coach too. Let me explain. A coach is there to guide you to your full potential, meaning your coach helps you transform into the leader that you desire to be, just so that you can give that difficult employee and that star employee too the best shot at being the most successful version of themselves. You need someone guiding you to help you get to the level you need to be in order to lead that next level of employee. You need a coach who can lift your chin and take your focus from how hard this one employee is to the vision of the transformational leader that you are becoming yourself. Do you have that coach guiding your focus? Are they giving you the clarity and the empowerment that you need? Are they standing side by side with you, looking at the map and saying, where do you want to go next? If not, I would love to have a conversation, even if only to think about what that would look like for you to help build this confidence and clarity for you. Now, whether or not you click the link below to have a conversation about what that looks like, I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope that you are able to use this information to make a meaningful change with all of your employees and coach them to your fullest capabilities. All right, I will see you in the